Word on the streets is that the hip-hop industry just got rocked by something nobody saw coming. Reports are circulating that nearly a dozen rappers were taken into custody right after explosive footage from 50 Cent's latest documentary suddenly leaked online and spread like wildfire. The clips allegedly reveal moments so damaging that they could completely destroy careers overnight. And instead of staying silent, 50 Cent has been openly reacting, mocking the situation, reposting clips, and adding fuel to an already blazing fire. Now, everyone is watching closely as the drama unfolds. Try to understand what really happened and why the entire industry can't seem to look away. To fully understand how things escalated to this point, you have to go back to late 2025, when everything quietly started building behind the scenes. That was the moment a major 4-part Netflix documentary titled The Reckoning centered around Diddy was officially released. 50 Cent, whose real name is Curtis Jackson, teamed up with director Alexandria Stapleton to create a project that promised to give fans a deeper, more unfiltered look into Diddy's real life and the controversy surrounding him. This wasn't some small online project made for quick views. It was a massive, high-budget Netflix production designed to make an impact. The series dropped all at once, nearly 2 years after 50 Cent first revealed he was working on it back in December 2023. From the start, it was clear this documentary was meant to shake things up and bring attention to stories that had been hidden for years. Netflix described the series as a powerful and eye-opening investigation into the life and empire of Diddy, diving deep into shocking allegations and moments that span across decades of his career. The documentary covered a wide range of topics, including the intense East Coast versus West Coast tensions of the 1990s, along with the still unsolved murders of Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G. It also explored major turning points in Diddy's journey, including his conflict with Death Row Records, his relationships with high-profile celebrities like Cassie Ventura, and many other defining moments. But what truly caught everyone off guard, what really made the biggest impact, was the footage that nobody expected to ever see. The documentary included never-before-seen clips recorded just days before Diddy's arrest, along with personal handwritten journal entries from Bad Boy co-founder Kirk Burrows, detailing years of handling Diddy's personal and financial matters. And behind this footage lies a complicated story that quickly turned the situation into something much bigger. The footage reportedly came from a videographer who had originally been hired by Diddy to document his personal life and ongoing legal issues for a private project. However, after his arrest, things took an unexpected turn when a third-party freelancer allegedly leaked the material. At the time, the main documentarian, Michael Oberle, was not even present, which only added more confusion to the situation. Later, Oberle explained that this wasn't about money or disputes. According to him, it was a clear betrayal by someone who chose to pass the footage along without permission. What made the situation even more intense was the nature of the footage itself. Some of the clips reportedly showed Diddy in a highly agitated state, reacting emotionally and speaking to his legal team in a way that raised serious questions. These moments painted a picture that many viewers weren't prepared for: raw, unfiltered, and deeply controversial. And once they were out in the public, there was no turning back. The footage doesn't just stop at emotional reactions. It reportedly captures Diddy going even further, instructing his legal team to find people willing to operate in what he described as the dirtiest side of the business, all in an effort to push back against the growing list of claims being made against him. That alone raised serious eyebrows. And when 50 Cent was later questioned about how he even got access to such explosive material during multiple interviews, he didn't exactly clear things up. Instead, he stayed vague, choosing his words carefully and avoiding any direct explanation. During a conversation with a Hollywood reporter just before the documentary's release, both 50 Cent and director Alexandria Stapleton remained extremely guarded. Neither of them was willing to reveal how the sensitive pre-arrest footage ended up in their hands. When pressed for answers, 50 Cent pushed back with a question of his own, making it clear he had no intention of exposing his sources. Meanwhile, Stapleton stood firm on the legal side of things, stating confidently that the footage was obtained properly and that they had full rights to use it. That response only added more mystery, leaving people wondering what really happened behind closed doors. One thing that has always been known about Diddy is his obsession with documenting his own life. For decades, he's been surrounded by cameras, constantly recording moments both big and small. And this documentary made full use of that habit, including deeply personal clips that painted him in a way many viewers hadn't seen before. These weren't staged appearances or polished interviews. They felt raw, unfiltered, and at times uncomfortable to watch, which only intensified public reaction. As soon as clips from the reckoning began circulating online, reactions flooded in from all directions. One particular moment quickly became a major talking point. It showed Diddy interacting with fans in Harlem, smiling, taking photos, and appearing completely normal in public. But the moment he stepped back into his luxury vehicle, his tone shifted. He reportedly expressed discomfort, asking for sanitizer and saying he felt the need to wash himself, describing the experience in a way that didn't sit well with many viewers. For 50 Cent, this moment said everything, and he didn't hesitate to highlight it, suggesting it revealed a deeper side of Diddy's character. Later, in an interview with ABC News alongside Robin Roberts, 50 Cent opened up about why he chose to be involved in the documentary in the first place. He explained that staying silent would have sent the wrong message, that the culture was willing to ignore certain behaviors. According to him, this project wasn't just about entertainment. It was about responsibility. He made it clear that he felt a duty to speak out, especially for those who couldn't, positioning himself as one of the few major voices willing to address the situation publicly. He went even further, saying that if he didn't stand up for what he believed was right, the entire hip-hop culture could be misrepresented and misunderstood. In his eyes, this wasn't just about one person. It was about protecting the image of the industry as a whole. And judging by the numbers, people were paying attention. The documentary quickly gained massive traction after its release, proving that the public was deeply invested in every detail of the story as it continued to unfold. He went on to partner with Netflix to bring The Reckoning to life, a documentary series centered around the growing list of claims tied to Diddy, and the response was massive. Reports suggest the series pulled in over 50 million views shortly after its release, showing just how deeply people were drawn into the controversy. Even 50 Cent himself admitted that the level of attention caught him off guard. He expected success, but not on this scale, especially not numbers strong enough to compete with major global hits. It was clear at that point that something much bigger had been set in motion. The documentary didn't just perform well. It completely shifted how people in the industry viewed 50 Cent. He was no longer seen as just an internet troll making jokes on social media. Now, he was being recognized as someone with the power to put real stories on screen, stories that could influence public opinion and potentially reshape reputations overnight. And with that shift came immediate backlash, especially from Diddy's side. The response from Diddy's camp was swift and intense. His team came forward with strong statements, openly criticizing the Netflix project and the people behind it. They described the documentary as a targeted attack, a so-called hit piece built around footage that was never meant to be seen by the public. According to them, the material used in the series included deeply personal recordings captured in the days leading up to his arrest, making the situation not just controversial, but deeply personal. A spokesperson for Diddy went even further, accusing Netflix of relying on stolen footage that had never been authorized for release. In their statement, they emphasized that Diddy had spent decades documenting his own life with the intention of telling his story on his own terms. From their perspective, taking that material and using it in a way he didn't approve would cross a serious line. And the criticism didn't stop there. They also took direct aim at 50 Cent, pointing out his long-standing rivalry with Diddy and suggesting that personal motives may have influenced the project. The statement painted a picture of betrayal, not just legally but personally. It highlighted how Diddy had previously shown respect to key figures associated with Netflix, making the situation feel even more unexpected from his point of view. To see his life story handled by someone he had publicly clashed with for years was, according to his team, a serious breach of trust. At the very least, they believed he deserved fairness, something they felt was completely missing from the final product. As tensions continued to rise, Diddy's legal team took formal action by sending a cease and desist notice to Netflix just before the documentary was released. They argued that the use of private pre-indictment footage was unauthorized and should not be broadcast. Despite these efforts, the documentary still aired as planned. And instead of backing down, 50 Cent responded in his usual way, by mocking the legal threats online, turning the situation into even more public spectacle. Netflix, on the other hand, didn't stay silent. The platform firmly rejected the accusations coming from Diddy's camp, stating that the claims against the documentary were simply not true. They maintained that everything included in The Reckoning was obtained legally and handled within proper rights, directly pushing back against the narrative that the project was built on stolen or misused material. Netflix made it clear that the project had absolutely no connection to any previous discussions between Diddy and the platform. They firmly stated that all footage showing events leading up to his indictment and arrest was obtained through completely legal means. According to them, this was not a targeted attack or an act of revenge in any form. They also clarified that 50 Cent, despite being an executive producer, did not have creative control over the documentary's final direction or content. That detail alone became a major talking point, especially considering the accusations being thrown around. In fact, Netflix emphasized that no individuals featured in the documentary were financially compensated for their participation. That statement raised eyebrows and added another layer to the conversation. It directly countered claims from Diddy's side, who had suggested the entire project was driven by personal motives. By pointing out that 50 Cent didn't control the narrative, Netflix was clearly trying to shut down the idea that this was some kind of personal vendetta playing out on screen. But just when things seemed like they couldn't get any stranger, the situation took an unexpected turn. In a surprising twist, 50 Cent took to social media claiming he had received what he described as an early Christmas gift from Diddy shortly after the documentary dropped. He posted an image showing a bouquet of flowers that were allegedly sent to him while he was performing at a club in Miami. The post instantly sparked confusion, curiosity, and even suspicion among fans. The idea of receiving flowers from someone you've just exposed in a controversial documentary raised a lot of questions. Was it a peace offering, a warning, or something else entirely? However, Diddy's team quickly stepped in to shut down the claim. When asked about it, they denied any involvement, stating that no such gift had been sent. They even suggested that it could have been a prank, someone playing a joke in extremely poor taste, knowing how tense the situation already was. Meanwhile, behind all the headlines and social media drama, the legal troubles surrounding Diddy continued to escalate. The release of the documentary brought renewed attention to the allegations against him, causing public interest to spike even further. The series included interviews connected to his federal case, which originally began when he was arrested and charged with serious offenses, including racketeering, conspiracy, and other major accusations tied to exploitation and illegal activities. The timing of the documentary only added more intensity to the situation, as it came shortly after Diddy had already been sentenced in a separate case. After spending over a year in a detention facility in Brooklyn, he was eventually transferred to a lower security federal institution in New Jersey. Even with that move, the legal pressure didn't ease. If anything, it continued to build as more details surfaced and more attention was drawn to the situation. And as expected, 50 Cent didn't stay quiet through any of this. As new developments began appearing in court proceedings, he once again stepped into the spotlight, publicly reacting to the latest claims. Reports from hearings suggested shocking testimony from individuals connected to the case, including statements that only added more controversy to an already explosive situation. There were even indications from legal teams that additional charges could potentially be filed moving forward. True to his usual style, 50 Cent took to Instagram almost immediately after the reports started circulating. He didn't hold back, posting blunt and direct comments aimed squarely at Diddy. His response added even more fuel to the fire, keeping the conversation alive and pushing the story further into the spotlight. And as if things weren't already complicated enough, the documentary itself soon became the center of legal trouble as well. A former participant featured in the project came forward with a lawsuit against both 50 Cent and Netflix, accusing them of misrepresentation. According to claims, the way their story was presented in the documentary was altered in a way that changed its meaning, raising serious concerns about how the narrative had been shaped behind the scenes. This development introduced yet another layer of controversy, proving that the fallout from this documentary was far from over. According to the lawsuit, the defendants intentionally edited and reshaped the narrative, allegedly distorting the plaintiff's account in a way that completely changed its meaning. The claim suggests that the story was presented in a misleading way, portraying Cassie Ventura as a victim while leaving out key parts of the plaintiff's testimony that could have told a very different story. These accusations added serious weight to the controversy, raising questions about how much of the documentary was truly objective. So even as 50 Cent continued to celebrate the massive success of the project, legal pressure began building around him from multiple directions. But despite all of that, nothing seemed to slow him down, not even for a moment. To really understand why 50 Cent pushed this documentary so aggressively, you have to look far beyond the surface and dig into the history behind it. This isn't just about a single project or recent events. This is a rivalry that stretches back more than 2 decades. Diddy and 50 Cent have been part of the same industry for years, crossing paths multiple times, but their relationship has never truly been friendly. What started as professional interactions slowly evolved into one of the longest-running feuds in hip-hop, filled with business tensions, diss tracks, controversial accusations, and relentless public trolling. Their story goes back over 25 years, and in the early days, things were relatively calm. There was even a time when they worked in the same circles, collaborating on music, connected to the notorious B.I.G., and moving within the same industry spaces. At that point, it seemed like they could coexist without major conflict. But that phase didn't last long, and things began to shift in a way that would eventually define their relationship for years to come. The real turning point came in 2006, when 50 Cent released a diss track that changed everything. In the song, he made bold and highly controversial claims, suggesting that Diddy had knowledge about the identity of the person responsible for the murder of the notorious B.I.G., one of the most sensitive and unresolved cases in hip-hop history. That accusation crossed a line that couldn't simply be ignored or taken back. It transformed what had been underlying tension into a full-blown rivalry that would continue to grow over time. From that moment on, the dynamic between 50 Cent and Diddy shifted completely. While things might have appeared calm on the surface at times, there was clearly something deeper going on behind the scenes. There were brief periods where the tension seemed to ease, even moments where the two appeared to interact playfully in public. At one point, 50 Cent even interrupted an interview involving Diddy, turning it into a lighthearted exchange that made it seem like the conflict had cooled down. There were also moments where they temporarily aligned, like when both of them took shots at Rick Ross during an ongoing feud in the late 2000s. But even in those moments of unity, the underlying tension never truly disappeared. The rivalry always found its way back to the surface, often stronger than before. By 2014, things had heated up again. 50 Cent returned to openly criticizing Diddy, making blunt comments about his music and questioning his relevance in the industry. During one interview, he didn't hold back, dismissing Diddy's work in a way that reignited the long-standing tension between them. It became clear that this wasn't just a passing conflict. It was something deeply rooted, something that continued to evolve with time, fueled by history, ego, and unfinished business. He doesn't even need a record, because he doesn't have one. 50 Cent once said, a line that perfectly captured the sharp, personal nature of this feud. And that's exactly what made this rivalry stand out over the years. It wasn't just about music or business. It got deeply personal. 50 Cent even recalled an awkward and tense moment at a high-profile event, describing how certain comments made him question everything. He explained that sometimes Diddy would say things that didn't even make sense, leaving people around him confused. One particular moment stood out when Diddy allegedly made a strange remark about the two of them partying together, something that didn't sit right at all. That wasn't the only incident that stuck with him. 50 Cent shared a story from years ago at Chris Lighty's wedding, a moment that should have been celebratory, but instead turned uncomfortable. According to him, Diddy made a comment about taking him shopping, a statement that completely caught him off guard. The reaction was instant. 50 Cent recalled looking at him in disbelief, trying to process what was just said before deciding to walk away to avoid escalating the situation. In his own words, he felt like staying any longer might cause a scene serious enough to ruin the entire wedding. Over the years, Diddy's response to these kinds of claims has been surprisingly calm, almost dismissive. Whenever the topic came up publicly, he would brush it off like it was nothing. During an appearance on The Breakfast Club, Diddy laughed off the idea of any real conflict between them. He insisted there was no bad blood, even going as far as to say that 50 Cent actually liked him. Smiling through the conversation, he suggested that people were misreading the situation entirely, framing the tension as something playful rather than hostile. But things took a serious turn in 2023, when Diddy's legal troubles began to surface publicly. That's when the situation escalated beyond jokes and interviews. In October that year, 50 Cent made explosive claims, alleging that Diddy had connections to the death of Tupac Shakur, another unresolved and highly sensitive case in hip-hop history. Just like the earlier accusations involving the notorious B.I.G., these claims added fuel to an already burning fire. Diddy, however, continued to deny any involvement in both cases, maintaining his stance despite the growing noise. By 2025, everything had changed. 50 Cent was no longer just making comments online. He had turned his influence into something much bigger, with a production company behind him, a major deal with Netflix, and a full documentary series centered around his longtime rival. The situation reached a whole new level. What once looked like trolling had evolved into a powerful platform, one that brought these long-standing issues into the spotlight for millions to see. At that point, it was impossible for anyone in the hip-hop world to ignore what was happening. Still, not everyone supported 50 Cent's move into documentary storytelling. In fact, some of his oldest rivals saw it as an opportunity to strike back. Ja Rule, one of his most well-known adversaries, quickly reignited their long-running feud. He publicly criticized 50 Cent's involvement in the documentary, accusing him of hypocrisy and questioning his intentions. According to Ja Rule, this wasn't about truth. It was about personal gain and revenge. The criticism didn't stop there. In a series of posts, Ja Rule went even further, calling 50 Cent a negative force within the culture. He suggested that the rapper's actions were damaging, even comparing him to the very person he was exposing. He also brought up past controversies involving 50 Cent, referencing an old incident as part of his argument, attempting to paint a picture that blurred the lines between accuser and accused. The feud between Ja Rule and 50 Cent is nothing new. It's one of the longest-running conflicts in hip-hop history, stretching back over 2 decades. The origins of their beef trace back to the late 1990s, involving street-level conflicts and personal confrontations that quickly escalated into a full-blown rivalry. One widely discussed version of events claims that Ja Rule was robbed in Queens, allegedly by someone connected to 50 Cent, which set everything in motion. Over the years, different versions of the story have surfaced. In his biography, From Pieces to Weight, 50 Cent shared a perspective, claiming that tension grew after Ja Rule saw him interacting with someone linked to that incident. According to him, that moment created a cold and hostile dynamic between them, one that would only intensify as both artists rose to fame, turning a street dispute into one of the most iconic rivalries the genre has ever seen. Ja Rule, however, told a completely different version of events. While he did confirm that he'd been robbed during that time, he denied ever seeing 50 Cent with the person responsible. According to him, the real issue started somewhere else entirely. He claimed that the tension between them began after 50 Cent felt disrespected by Murder Incorporated, allegedly taking offense to being overlooked or ignored. What started as a misunderstanding quickly escalated into something much bigger, turning into a feud filled with diss tracks, confrontations, and real-life altercations that went far beyond music. Things reached a boiling point when members of 50 Cent's G-Unit crew crossed paths with Murder Incorporated at the iconic Hit Factory Studios in New York City. What could have been a simple encounter turned into another violent clash. Reports suggest that Ja Rule had received word that 50 Cent was recording there and decided to show up, leading to a situation that quickly spiraled out of control. During that confrontation, 50 Cent was reportedly stabbed by Black Child, an artist associated with Murder Incorporated, a moment that further cemented just how serious and dangerous this rivalry had become. So when Ja Rule came after 50 Cent over the documentary, it wasn't random at all. It was simply the latest chapter in a feud that has lasted for over 25 years. Throughout the recent controversy, Ja Rule has openly supported Diddy, especially as the music mogul faced multiple lawsuits and serious allegations. On the other side, 50 Cent has continued to clash not only with Diddy himself, but also with his entire camp, particularly over the Netflix documentary that brought everything back into the spotlight. As expected, 50 Cent didn't stay quiet. He fired back in his own signature style through social media. In response to Ja Rule's criticism, he shared a video clip featuring former Diddy bodyguard Gene Deal, who recounted a controversial story involving both Diddy and Ja Rule. The clip hinted at an awkward and questionable moment, adding fuel to an already explosive situation. Alongside the post, 50 Cent added a sarcastic caption, mocking the backlash and suggesting that there might be deeper reasons behind the harsh criticism he was receiving. But the drama didn't stop there. Diddy's family also stepped into the spotlight. His sons, Justin Combs and Christian King Combs, announced that they will be starring in their own documentary series set to release on the Zeus Network in 2026. The project is expected to focus on how their family has been affected by their father's legal battles, offering a more personal perspective on the situation. They teased the series with a trailer on social media, showing emotional moments, including footage from outside the courthouse during key developments in the case. At the same time, King Combs made his stance clear through music. In 2024, he released a track titled Pick a Side, openly supporting his father while taking shots at critics, including 50 Cent. The message was clear. The younger generation of the Combs family wasn't staying silent. Meanwhile, both King Combs and his brother Justin were briefly detained during a federal search of their father's home earlier that year. Although they were not charged with any crimes, the situation added even more tension to an already chaotic narrative. And through all of it, 50 Cent kept doing what he does best: trolling. Even after appearing in a more composed and serious interview setting, he quickly returned to his usual online persona. Using edited clips and clever posts, he reignited conversations about Diddy's past connections, even bringing Jay-Z into discussion by referencing an earlier legal situation that had since been dismissed. His approach blurred the line between entertainment and controversy, turning every moment into something viral. Taking things even further, 50 Cent transformed his trolling into business. He became part of a commercial campaign that cleverly played into the idea of ongoing celebrity feuds. In the ad titled The Big Beef, he humorously claimed that his days of trolling were behind him, a statement that clearly wasn't meant to be taken seriously. The campaign wasn't just about promoting a product. It was a reflection of how deeply his persona had become tied to drama, rivalry, and calculated controversy that keeps audiences watching. That 50-month reference wasn't just a random number. It directly pointed to the prison sentence that Diddy began serving in late 2025. And make no mistake, this wasn't just wordplay or a clever nod to a stage name. This was 50 Cent turning a real-life downfall into a public spectacle, using a massive digital platform to mock a rival whose career was already under pressure while sitting behind bars. It wasn't subtle, it was calculated, bold, and impossible to ignore. After already stepping into the role of executive producer for Sean Combs' The Reckoning, 50 Cent made it clear that he wasn't just participating in these stories, he was shaping them. In the world of celebrity feuds, he positioned himself as both the one documenting history and the one delivering the final blow. With pressure coming from all sides, including Ja Rule, Diddy's sons, and the public, the aftermath of the documentary created a storm that spread across the entire industry. But while everyone else was still reacting, 50 Cent had already shifted his focus to something new, and that's where things took an even more explosive turn. On March 5th, 2026, he made a move on Instagram that instantly set the internet on fire. This time, the spotlight wasn't on Diddy. It was on T.I. and Tiny Harris, as rumors began circulating that 50 Cent was working on a documentary centered around the serious allegations connected to them. In a now-deleted post, 50 Cent shared a screenshot of an article claiming that he was developing a project tentatively titled Surviving T.I. and Tiny. But it wasn't just the title that caught attention. It was the caption that came with it. He reminded everyone how quiet he'd gone before releasing the Diddy documentary, hinting that the same strategy might be unfolding again. Then came the warning, suggesting that questions about multiple allegations were coming, and that it might be time to prepare for serious public scrutiny. The title itself was no coincidence. It echoed the infamous Surviving R. Kelly series, a comparison that carried heavy implications and instantly raised the stakes. This wasn't just promotion, it was psychological pressure, a strategic move designed to spark conversation, controversy, and anticipation all at once. And just like that, another high-profile conflict was pushed into the spotlight. The tension between 50 Cent and T.I. isn't new either. Their issues trace all the way back to 2007, when 50 Cent publicly accused T.I. of cooperating with authorities, following a legal case involving weapons charges. That accusation planted the seed for a rivalry that never fully disappeared. Years later, in early 2026, the situation reignited when T.I. called out 50 Cent during an interview, accusing him of avoiding a Verzuz battle while promoting his Kill the King project. As expected, 50 Cent responded in his usual way, through social media trolling. But this time, T.I. didn't back down. Instead, he escalated things by releasing multiple diss tracks over a short period of time, directly targeting 50 Cent. The situation quickly intensified, pulling in more voices and turning into a full-blown lyrical war that fans couldn't ignore. Then things went even further. T.I.'s sons, including King Harris and Domani, stepped into the conflict, releasing their own tracks aimed at 50 Cent. What started as a rivalry between two artists was now turning into a family-wide confrontation. And that's when the situation crossed a serious line. In a shocking moment, King Harris went live and launched into a heated rant that targeted something deeply personal. 50 Cent's late mother, Sabrina Jackson, who passed away when he was just a child. The comments were harsh, emotional, and widely criticized. The backlash was immediate, and the situation escalated even further when King Harris appeared wearing a shirt featuring her image, a move that many saw as deeply disrespectful. Even T.I. himself later admitted that this crossed a boundary that should never have been touched. What started as industry rivalry had now turned into something much darker, a conflict fueled by history, emotion, and lines that, once crossed, can never truly be erased. T.I. eventually broke his silence and addressed the situation publicly. During an interview, he spoke about his son's involvement, making it clear that he wasn't controlling every move being made. He stated that everyone was acting on their own decisions, while also expressing pride in his family for standing united. However, he did admit that after the controversy surrounding the shirt incident, he advised King Harris to step back and ease the situation before it spiraled further out of control. But while many expected 50 Cent to respond with diss tracks, he chose a completely different route. Something far more calculated and potentially more damaging. Instead of going back and forth in music, he leaned into what has now become his most powerful weapon, the threat of exposure through film. It's a strategy he has already proven works, and one that carries a different kind of impact. 50 Cent has relied on diss tracks to take down his rivals. He's been using documentaries to shape narratives and influence public perception. His previous project targeting Diddy, The Reckoning, showcase exactly how effective that approach can be. The series explored the rise and fall of Diddy, diving into serious allegations and controversies that surround his life, and the impact was massive. Now, the focus has shifted toward T.I. and Tiny Harris, with allegations that have been circulating for years. Multiple individuals have come forward accusing the couple of involvement in disturbing activities, including claims of manipulation and abuse. These accusations first gained widespread attention back in 2021, when an entrepreneur publicly made serious claims against T.I., triggering a wave of similar stories from others who described experiences that followed a similar pattern. According to these accounts, individuals were allegedly invited into exclusive environments where situations would escalate in ways they did not expect. The consistency of these stories raised serious concerns and led to multiple investigations. However, despite the number of accusations, the legal system has not produced convictions against T.I. or Tiny Harris. Authorities did open investigations in multiple locations, but no formal charges were ultimately filed, largely due to legal limitations around how much time had passed since the alleged incidents. Throughout all of this, T.I. and Tiny Harris have firmly denied any wrongdoing, maintaining that any interactions were entirely consensual and within the boundaries of the law. But this is where 50 Cent's strategy becomes clear. He operates in the space between legal outcomes and public opinion, a space where perception can sometimes matter more than verdicts. Even without confirmed legal consequences, the narrative itself can shape reputations, and that's exactly the arena where he thrives. And here's the most important detail. As of March 2026, there is no confirmed evidence that a documentary titled Surviving T.I. and Tiny is actually in production. No official announcements, no confirmed deals, no verified footage. But in today's viral media landscape, the idea alone is powerful enough to create waves. The threat of exposure can hit just as hard, if not harder, than the release itself. Taking things even further, 50 Cent has already started weaving this conflict into his creative projects. Through music tied to his expanding entertainment empire, he has taken subtle and not-so-subtle shots at T.I., Tiny Harris, and even their family. It's a move that keeps the tension alive while building anticipation for what could come next. At this point, a clear pattern has emerged. 50 Cent used The Reckoning as proof that he can dominate the documentary space and control a narrative on a massive scale. He demonstrated his ability to turn controversy into content that captures global attention. And now, he's applying that same formula to a new target. Whether or not this new documentary ever becomes real almost doesn't matter anymore. The impact has already been felt. The conversation has already started. And the pressure has already shifted onto T.I., forcing him into a defensive position while the public watches closely. 50 Cent has built a career not just on music, but on survival strategy and knowing exactly when to strike. From surviving life-threatening moments to dominating business ventures, he has consistently proven that he knows how to stay ahead. And through it all, one thing has remained constant. He never lets a rivalry go to waste. Based on everything we've seen so far, this story is far from over. In fact, it feels like it's only just beginning. Because if there's one thing 50 Cent has shown again and again, it's that he doesn't stop, he doesn't back down, and he definitely doesn't forget.